Hi everyone, I'm Bailey, and my research paper is about the association between occupational exposure to pesticides and the development of hypothyroidism. Pesticides are chemical substances specifically designed to exterminate or repel harmful or pesky living organisms. They can be categorized into three main classes: herbicides, which target weeds, insecticides, which target insects, and fungicides, which target fungi like mold and mildew. In the United States, there are over 800 pesticides registered for use. Among these, non-persistent pesticides, which break down quickly in the environment, are predominantly used. However, their widespread application poses significant risk to thyroid health. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, are natural or synthetic compounds that interfere with hormone functions in the body, especially affecting the thyroid gland. Estimates suggest over 1,000 EDCs exist, including pesticides. These chemicals alter the hypothalamus-pituitary-thyroid axis, or HPT axis, by disrupting the uptake of iodine, hormone production, and transport. This leads to imbalanced thyroid hormone levels. Even minor changes in these hormone levels can lead to serious health outcomes, including neuropsychiatric disorders, cardiovascular issues, and cancer. Therefore, understanding the association between pesticide exposure and thyroid diseases is important for improving overall public health. Hypothyroidism is characterized by an insufficient production of thyroid hormones, resulting in symptoms such as weight gain, fatigue, and even changes in one's voice. This is a growing concern, as around 5 to 9% of U.S. adults are affected by subclinical thyroid disease, and up to 7.5% of U.S. adults have hypothyroidism. Subclinical hypothyroidism is a milder form of the disease, defined by alterations in the thyroid hormones before symptoms even occur. Overt hypothyroidism, on the other hand, is a more severe form of thyroid dysfunction, in which a person exhibits altered thyroid hormone levels and symptoms. Agricultural workers are especially at risk for this disease due to prolonged exposure from pesticide application, often risking direct skin contact and/or inhalation. A large prospective cohort study analyzing the effects of pesticide exposure among 35,150 agricultural workers found that 1,546 of them were diagnosed with clinical thyroid disease, and 870 of those were diagnosed with hypothyroidism specifically. Although these numbers may seem small, it provides us statistically significant evidence of a causal relationship between pesticide exposure and thyroid health outcomes. Within organochlorine insecticides, lindane, aldrin, heptachlor, and chlordane were linked to increased prevalence of hypothyroidism. The organophosphate insecticides coumaphos, diazinon, dichlorvos, and malathion exhibited a similar pattern. And finally, exposure to 3 herbicides, dicamba, glyphosate, and 2,4-D were positively associated with an increased risk of the development of hypothyroidism. This shows the importance of analyzing individual chemicals rather than just classes of pesticides, because risks may vary substantially between chemicals even if they're in the same class. A systematic review and meta-analysis found that among the insecticide class, occupational exposure to organochlorines, organophosphates, and pyrethroids was associated with heightened risk of hypothyroidism, but organochlorines exhibited the strongest effects across multiple studies. Exposure to herbicides showed a moderate association with hypothyroidism, but exposure to fungicides and fumigants were not found to be associated with its development. Another systematic review found a consistent association between non-persistent pesticide exposure and fluctuations in thyroid hormone levels. Specifically, organophosphate and pyrethroid insecticides, as well as the dithiocarbamate herbicides, had the biggest effects. While these pesticide classes are generally considered less environmentally persistent than organochlorines, this review showed that cumulative exposure to these pesticides can still have endocrine disrupting effects. The first systematic review was also extremely important because it found that occupational exposure was consistently associated with the development of hypothyroidism, while environmental exposure showed no consistently clear relationship to thyroid disease. Demographic factors also play a crucial role in vulnerability to pesticide-related thyroid dysfunction. The agricultural health study indicated that workers above the age of 62 had a higher risk for hypothyroidism when compared to their younger counterparts. Further research has shown that female agricultural workers are more prone to thyroid diseases, experiencing higher rates of various thyroid conditions when compared to males. Additionally, a study on spouses of the pesticide applicators found that even non-occupational exposure can heighten thyroid disease risk in females. This study found that the women participants living in high pesticide use areas had higher rates of all thyroid diseases, including hypothyroidism. The consistency between these studies reinforces the fact that these biochemical changes are not isolated events, but physiological responses to pesticide exposure in those working in agricultural settings. This is especially important because it underscores the need for implementing stronger occupational health policies and interventions to protect agricultural workers and the surrounding populations from cumulative pesticide exposure. Some interventions may include low-cost, regular thyroid screenings and establishing healthcare clinics in rural agricultural areas. Addressing these challenges will not only improve health outcomes for at-risk populations, but also address the broader need for public health strategies that limit exposure to harmful pesticides. Thank you, guys.